Highmarsh and its volatile history, pre-landing, before 2164. Nowhere else on Astilion is quite as enigmatic, mysterious, or magically warped as the Highmarsh. Not having been fully explored at the time of this writing, Highmarsh is a strange and seemingly incorrect place. Explorations here are hampered by its sheer elevation, with the lowest point sitting at approximately 5,000 feet above sea level, meaning that to even begin mapping and or exploring it, one must be a skilled and experienced mountaineer indeed. Even those adept at this, however, are in for an uphill battle, both literally and metaphorically, as in many areas the rock faces are sheer and slicked with mud and groundwater. For the first 2 centuries of its colonization, Astilion settlers left Highmarsh untouched, as they hadn't the slightest clue what the sheer cliff face at the northern valley's western end was. When the first climbers braved the perilous ascent, they were astounded not only by the presence of a damp, warm swamp atop what was otherwise a standard cold mountain, but also by its sheer size. When sailors mapped the western coastline of Astilion, they were met with a similarly muddy and wet 5,000-foot sheer cliff face. When the first dedicated band of explorers set out in 2389 with the express goal of mapping the area, they were shocked to find large sections of the earth here simply floating above the ground, held aloft by seemingly nothing at all. They concluded that some greater magical force must be at play in the area. The whole ecology and ecosystem of the region were similarly warped by great, seemingly magical means. The creatures of this region, most of whom were also endemic to much of the rest of Astilion, bore harsh and exaggerated features and odd colorations and patterns compared to previously observed counterparts elsewhere. Some researchers believe these effects, as well as the generally heightened magical charge in the region, are the result of a spillage of primal magic from a sort of arcane schism that took place in the Highmarsh region long ago. This spillage manifests in the affected flora, which are, on average, twice as large as usual, fauna and terrain of the marsh, as well as a form of severe magical disease, resembling mundane cancers that develop from long stays in the swamp itself. The flora here seem to suffer from their advanced growth. Many plants that would function well at a normal growth level are left unable to support themselves under the extreme stress of their own weight. Consequently, many bear wilted edges on their leaves, indicating an inability for the plants to adequately supply themselves with nutrients and water. As well, some plants have been mutated by this extreme exposure, leading to many new species and genetic offshoots of existing ones. Several carnivorous plants have been reported, and some accounts even tell of other unique dangers that none have lived to tell the tale of, though if this were the case, one would be forgiven in wondering just how these stories came about. The fauna bear similar mutations to those found in the flora. Most creatures endemic to this place regularly grow to double their expected size, which poses a particular challenge to anyone exploring here. These creatures are also beset by odd growths and exhibit strange, seemingly irrational behavior, even for creatures of their mental caliber. Some species, which are normally completely solitary barring mating, are here found in large communal nests entirely counter to their previously observed and expected nature. The growths observed on specimens here were found to be manifestations of the same cancer-like growths found to develop on and in explorers of the region. Early accounts from the first explorers of the area detail an incident where half of an entire company was wiped out by a 40-foot-long monstrous creature resembling a deformed alligator. I'd have scoffed at such stories had I not been invited to a private showing of the beast's skeleton 30 years ago. The terrain of Highmarsh is primarily a basin, bordered on all sides by hills with the dip between them being the majority of the swamp itself. The previously noted chunks of earth held aloft revolve around the center of the basin in an elliptical pattern, casting large shadows as they loom over various parts of the swamp during the day. Some explorers claim that the most terrifying beasts only emerge when in these shadows. However, this is unlikely, as it is improbable that a sporadic schedule of waking, sleeping, feeding, and hunting is part of any successful survival strategy, and a creature following one would surely fail to sustain itself. These, thus, seem to be nothing more than stories aiming to further the fantastical nature of the Highmarsh for respect or prestige. Stories have also been told of a subspecies of crate inhabiting the marsh, dubbed the Mambra tribes. These Mambra are larger than other Krayt, standing as tall if not taller than an average-sized man, and are highly aggressive. It is reported that these Krayt are a pale white color with sickly purple lesions, sores, and growths marring their bodies. All attempts at peaceful contact have failed. Scholars posit that this is the result of the arcane sickness that pervades the whole marsh, a thought with which I concur. The end result appears to be a Krayt even more violently animalistic than its southeastern cousins. To describe Highmarsh as anything short of incorrect would be gross academic misconduct.